being fully transparent with you all, I didn't even want to film today if I could be honest. And that has everything to do with this massive zit on the side of my nose that you may or may not be able to even see because I piled on so much concealer and powder over it. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it hurts and it's big and it's angry and I didn't even want to show my face if I could be perfectly honest. But then I thought to myself, you know, you can't let your nose zits stop you from living your life. And those are words that I'm choosing to live by. I don't know about you. Hi guys, my name is Lacey of Speakless and Fat Hips, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is now my third time trying to film this video, and if I have to try one more time, I'm throwing the whole thing away. So, this issue, this topic, the dreaded topic of cancel culture, this came up in my reacting to your unpopular opinions video that I did last. Also, side note, I have never in my life mentioned that I wanted to do another dedicated video to something and then immediately did said video. Look at me growing as a YouTuber, but I digress. This is such a shitty subject to talk about because people feel such a ways about this topic, and even in that last video I gave such a non-answer on this subject because I'm honestly tired of talking about it, if I can be perfectly honest, and I think a lot of influencers are tired of this subject, which is exactly why we need to talk about this subject. I wrote myself like a strict guideline to go off of, but I don't think I'm actually going to do that because as I was going off of my script and talking about these things, I didn't get to the point that I wanted to hit. So that's what we're going to do today. First of all, what is cancel culture? Let's give it a loose definition. Cancel culture is when somebody in the public eye fucks up in some way. Normally they do or say something that we all as a society, we live in a society, that the masses have deemed immoral and not okay, and we all collectively decide to stop financially supporting that person and to not allow that person to have a platform anymore. Cancel culture is a subsect of call-out culture, and I would argue that call-out culture mostly exists on like the left side of the political sphere. I don't know if the right kind of has the same call-out culture. I don't know. I'm not a political expert. And normally, this is all done for very good reasons. I don't want to minimize the reasons why call-out culture or cancel culture are important, because typically we're dealing with the heavy hitter subjects that no one really likes to talk about in these instances. We're talking about all of the isms, racism, sexism, homophobia, classism, transphobia, etc. And I don't ever want to be like, it's so complicated, fuck it, we shouldn't care anymore, because that's how things remain systemic and that's how things remain unchanged and unchallenged. So we're never going to fucking do that on this channel. We're going to call out things when they deserve to be called out on this channel. If that's not okay with you, I really don't know why you're subscribed to me to begin with, because I've never really painted myself as this like I don't want to stir any pots kind of darling influencer, but I digress. The comments never cease to amaze me on these types of videos. What I'm instead going to be challenging in this video about cancel culture and kind of raising the bar up for us all personally is the ways in which cancel culture are or are not affected and why so many people are mocking it and getting fatigue over it right now. But specifically in reference to that unpopular opinions video, the person had said to me, like, do we even call out brands like Too Faced, for instance, and hold brands to a higher standard at all, or just fuck it? And that's a very complicated issue, personally. For one, consider cancel culture a type of boycott. I feel like, sorry, in our society, boycotts rarely work. They rarely work because you can't escape capitalism. It's the world that we live in. I can only really speak for America and other westernized societies. But as much as I can be vocal against capitalism, I'm still forced to participate in it, and it fucking sucks, and it makes you feel helpless sometimes, and I feel like that's why so many of us cling to cancel culture, because it's one of those, like, small things that we feel like gives us control and actually can implement change, hypothetically, stay with me. And I get it. I get why people harp on it so much. I really do. But also, when we're just talking about boycotts in general, they're rarely organized, and they rarely offer alternatives, which is why I don't think they work. So, for example, if we were going to do an effective boycott, let's say we live in this hypothetical world where there's one dominant pencil company, stick with me, and we all decide, fuck this pencil company, the owner did something messed up, we're gonna boycott these pencils immediately. An effective boycott would give a true call to action, and it also gives alternatives. So instead of buying from this pencil company, we're all gonna buy from this smaller pen company, or we're all gonna get typewriters, whatever. And it's implemented in a way that actually gives a hard-hitting, direct financial, like, burden to the brand. But in actual society, if we're going to live in this mythical pencil land for a moment, if I decide, hey, this pencil company has done something so fucked up and that needs to be called out on, that is legitimately fucked up, and I want to hold this company accountable, it doesn't matter if I, Lacey, Spookyless, and Fat Hips have decided that, because the masses maybe haven't. And maybe more often than not, people are like, well, I need a pencil and I don't have any other options, and this is the cheapest pencil and it works for me, and it's the pencil I've always known, and how am I going to work if I don't have a pencil, and how am I going to do so that, like, you know what I mean? There's all these different layers that affect how effective a boycott can be, and I think that's the problem, especially in the beauty community, when we're talking about not shopping from certain brands, living lifestyles that reflect a certain, you know, moral compass, veganism, cruelty-free, whatever, as examples, environmentally aware. That actually becomes a very classist issue, because yes, me in my own life, I have a lot of options available to me. I have the money and resources to buy from different brands if I don't like X brand and what they're doing. But that's not true for everybody. So already this is strike one against cancel culture, is I feel like we're not offering people enough of an alternative to certain situations. For example, because I know there's already people like, well, we don't need makeup and blah, 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 and there's so many options out there. I'm going to use the example of being cruelty-free, because I, in my own life, try to be as cruelty-free as possible, but I know that I still probably cannot label myself as cruelty-free. It's why I've never labeled myself as a cruelty-free channel, because I recognize that it's such an individual thing that I can do with my own current circumstances and resources, but that's not true for everybody. If I want to remain cruelty-free, there are so many products that I can buy for my price range, for my skin needs, that allow me to look the way that I want to look, but that, again, is not true for everybody. Someone way back when I first started my channel left me a comment of like, I would love to be cruelty-free, but NARS makes one of the only foundation ranges that works for my skin tone. I can't fucking argue with that, can I? Because I don't have any alternatives for that person. That is so valid to me. And also, like, there are so many people who, you know, right now on my face, how many dollars of makeup am I wearing on my face right now? I'm wearing the new Mani palette, I'm wearing a JD Glow single, I'm wearing a Fenty highlighter, a Too Faced blush, etc., etc. What if the circumstances only allowed me to walk into a store and get some Maybelline products off the shelf, and that's what I needed to make myself feel good so that I can go to work and I can continue to afford the things I need in my life? That's my only issue. Maybe I live in a place where I don't even have access to anything but a drugstore, and that's all I can get. That's valid to me. I can't tell somebody that that's not. And I'm sure there's so many people like, well, Lacey, in terms of greater makeup land, if you don't want to buy Fenty highlighters anymore, for example, there's 1,000 other highlighters that you could buy. Yes. But also, now I have access to very specific information about Fenty, let's say, or any other brand. I'm using Fenty, they haven't done anything really. There was the one highlighter that they ended up pulling, that's a whole thing. Let's go back to the pencil analogy, because I feel like pencils won't be as divisive. If the pencil I'm using costs $40 to begin with, and there's a million other $40 pencils in the world, and it does not matter if I continue to buy this $40 pencil or not, because I am part of a weird sphere of information where I hyper focus on pencils, and I have a whole channel devoted to pencils, and I fucking love pencils, but I make up such a small percentage of who actually shops from this brand, and most people who buy pencils don't really know anything about pencil culture, and they just buy the pencils that they need to work for themselves. They don't know what the owner did that was so fucked up, so they're just going to continue to buy the pencils. That is how literally every other industry in the world works in my life. I said this on the podcast that I did last Sunday as I'm filming this, where Lindsay Schoolcraft was on, who was a member of Cradle Filth and a friend of me and George's. We were talking about the music that we like and the kinds of metal music that we like, and Lindsay was saying that, like, all of the problematic things that we talk about in the beauty community, all the shitty, like, players that we see that we're critiquing constantly, those types of people exist in the music industry. We just don't ever hear about them because it all happens behind closed doors. That is true for literally everything beyond makeup. It's true for the music I listen to, the household cleaning products I use, my shampoo, my furniture. Like, I don't know what any of these people have done who own these brands behind closed doors. That's what makes the makeup industry so unique, is that it is so in front of the camera. It does exist in front of the door as opposed to behind it. And this is where, like, another gray area pops up. We know what people are doing in the beauty industry, so we should hold them to higher standards. In theory. But really, honestly, before I continue to go on my pencil tangent, because I don't even know how it's relevant anymore, the biggest issue I truly have with cancel culture and why I feel like it's not effective and why I feel like we all need to examine it right now is that it's not so much anymore about holding public figures accountable as it is about policing the individual. And actually, I think cancel culture should be considered another type of I'm going to use the phrase social currency in this situation. I think that's the problem, is that cancel culture more often, when implemented, is a type of social currency versus an actual tool of change. What do I mean by that, you may ask? Social currency is what we have to offer to other individuals in our society. In the makeup world, it's often used as the phrase clout. You can consider it your clout, what clout you have to bring to the table. Cancel culture is how we market ourselves to other people. I think it's one of the easiest ways that we can deliver our values to other people and identify other people with our shared values. And I think this is why we all go so hard for cancel culture, those of us who like participate in it. But I feel like that's the issue, is that when we start policing each other, it just makes it so the actual action of boycotting, the actual action of calling things and people and brands to be accountable for their fuck-ups gets lost, and instead it becomes like who sits at the cool kids table. Does that make sense? Another way that cancel culture, I think, is a social currency that I forgot to mention in this video is that it's also extremely performative. It very much involves having the image of someone who is calling these brands out and keeping up this kind of energy across your social media platforms. And we don't know what everyone does privately in their own homes. That's all I'm going to say. And I think that's because we all act in these extremes, and we all have this if you care about X, why not Y mentality. My voice just cracked. We all have this if you care about X, why not Y mentality that makes it so fatiguing for people to keep up the wherewithal for these types of call-out culture movements to continue. Oftentimes, when it comes to issues of being cruelty-free, being environmentally friendly, for instance, if one person does one thing right, there is this call to action to continue to do other things right, which seems in reason, but then it gets nitpicky. Oh, you have a reusable straw, but are you still bringing single-use plastics to the grocery store, let's say, as an example? And again, this is now an issue of, should your energy be spent policing the individual, especially in circumstances where people may not have the resources to the knowledge that you have, or to act in a boycott the way that you can act? Or is it more effective to shift our energy to systematic change? When it comes to these kind of issues, I'm going to raise some kind of moral situation to you all right now. Does it make sense for me as an individual to bring reusable bags to the grocery store every time I go? Or does it make sense to vote for a politician who is going to implement a plastic bag ban in my city, which is something that actually happened in the town that I grew up in? There was ultimately a plastic bag ban. This is the gray area. This is where it comes into, I don't really know what to tell you guys sometimes, and I think so many of you guys look to me and other influencers as like a moral compass of what to do, but I don't have all the answers either. I don't think any influencer has all the answers, honestly. Bringing reusable shopping bags to the store is something that I can do. It is something that I do. It doesn't make my carbon footprint in this world suddenly zero, because there are a lot of other things that I have no control over, let's say, or that I can only do so little about, given my situation in life, given my resources. Also in our society, these kinds of toxic behaviors tend to keep corporations specifically at an advantage, and therefore the system is designed to remain unquestioned and unchallenged, so that people like me will continue to do things that, while harmful maybe as a whole, keep people in positions of wealth and power. So, does that mean that any steps that I have taken make no difference at all? I would argue no, and I think that is such an issue in cancel culture as well, is this issue of, well, if you can't do everything right, don't fucking do it at all, which is a shitty issue to have. Like, it's a shitty side to have in this situation, I should say. I would argue that as many baby steps as you could possibly take are still progress, but to many people in the extremes of these issues, no, it's not good enough, we need total systematic change now. And I get it. I don't know who is or isn't right in this situation. I honestly don't. Not to mention, oftentimes when we are successful in getting a corporation or a brand or an influencer to morally change, it's not so much that their actual morals have changed, it's just that public opinion has shown that if they sway in a different direction, it will be profitable to them. So it's something to think about. When it comes to who I choose to cancel in my own life, I can only kind of steer myself towards issues that maybe matter to me, but then there's this other like gray area thrown in of like, what is cancelable in itself? Okay, before I get off tangent, I caught myself. I probably edited it out. Okay. Moral dilemma that exists within the beauty community, and you can implement this to a lot of brand owners, so I'm not going to be specific. Brand owner A has said some really fucked up things in their past. Again, this is multiple people that I can think of off the top of my head who have said something fucked up, and we're going to label what they said as racist. That same brand owner A, has a makeup line that has actually extensive inclusive products that work for a lot of people. How do I go about canceling this brand and cutting off these inclusive products that actually make a difference? Like, that's a gray area to me. Brand owner B maybe hasn't said anything fucked up, but they have 5 foundation shades in their most popular line. What sends the greater message? Canceling this person because they said something fucked up, or canceling this person because their actions don't match what we have or haven't heard from them? This is the problem. This is why so many of us want to tear our fucking hair out on this issue. The last thing I want to kind of bring up when it comes to this, like, debate of who do we or do we not cancel is steering your energy in ways where it matters and not canceling people over something stupid. And I feel like I want to like preface that with like, I feel like a lot of the reasons why we cancel somebody is really to hold them accountable for these screwed up things. But then we get nitpicky and I don't know. It's such a gray area, and I know my comment section's already out of control, and I probably am already stressed out about it as you're watching this. But cancel culture has really become something to be mocked. And I think we all can see that in Jaclyn Hill's fucking tasteless Halloween costume, where she's making a joke of being canceled when there were really people who were really fans of hers, who really spent their hard-earned money on products that ended up really, like, affecting them negatively. That's fucked up, and that deserves to be canceled. But then there's also people critiquing Jaclyn Hill for getting fat. That doesn't fucking help anything, and that gives her power to then take a movement that should mean something and make a tasteless Halloween costume about it that ends up just being a fuck you to all of the people who really want her to see that what she did wasn't okay and that it hurt people. You get me? Also, I think when it comes to canceling people, I'm gonna call it as I see it. I think a lot of people just cancel what is trendy or what's easy to be canceled. What do I mean by that? You may ask me. I need merch that means, but what do you mean by that? I think one of the reasons why we can all argue that Kat Von D was successfully canceled, all of her makeup is so drastically on sale, it's scary, so that's what I'm using to support this argument right now. One of the reasons why I think that was an effective movement was not so much that what she did was more messed up than other things that other people have been canceled for, but it's because her makeup fucking sucks lately, and it was really easy for people to not want to buy it. Truthfully, if she was still creating bomb-ass, innovative, amazing, beautiful products, would as many people be like passing on her shade and light palette, or would people be like, separate the art from the artist? You know what I mean? So what do we all do from here? Because I feel like all I've done in this video is poke holes into cancel culture and talk about all the reasons why it sucks and we shouldn't do it. I don't believe that. What I'm saying is, as a unit, as a group, as a society, as the masses, as a public, focus your energy accordingly. Is a person actually causing physical harm by the things that they're saying or doing? That's something that should be canceled. Don't get in fights with other people who are just trying to navigate this complicated system in a way that works best for them. I don't think working in these extremes of if you can't do X, don't bother at all, or if you're doing X, why aren't you doing Y? And what I mean by that is oftentimes there are people who are like, oh, you care about the environment? Well, why don't you care about animal rights? These are just examples. Stop doing that. Like, let people care about the issues that they care about and let them affect change in the ways that they can implement change. Stop policing each other stop policing each other so that you can feel better about how serious you are on this issue. Truthfully. When people want to know about an issue, educate them. Don't shame them for not knowing about it to begin with. Be open to hearing about the reasons why a brand is or isn't canceled. Don't speak over people who have been offended by the actions of somebody because you don't want to feel guilty about continuing to support that thing or that product or that brand. I think if we all were just less pissy towards each other and more open to being educated and more open to working with each other and doing the small steps that we can take, it wouldn't be so much of a joke. Does that make sense? Honestly, I think if cancel culture wasn't so trendy, it would be more effective. That's my 2 cents on it. Take it or leave it. Like always, I don't know if this video had a point. I don't even know if it fucking made sense. I just really wanted to talk about it in a little bit more of an extended fashion because when I gave that initial answer in my last video, I did feel shitty about minimizing such a serious issue because I think we do need to continue to hold public figures accountable. That is how you implement change. I just think the focus needs to remain on those in power and those with platforms and not so much on tearing each other apart for not boycotting in a way that you find as effective as it could be. You know what I mean? I don't think cancel culture is necessarily a bad thing. I do think its heart is in the right place. I do think we should demand change and we should demand action. Oh, that's a whole other thing though. Something that I didn't even bring up that I wanted to bring up is I think another issue of cancel culture is we're all kind of foggy on what the end result should be. I'm going to reference to my criminal justice degree for a hot second. There's this argument in studying criminology and criminal justice of what is the end goal of the United States prison system? Is it to rehabilitate offenders so that they don't offend again? Or is it to just imprison them, keep them away from society, the end? That is a huge debate right now. I think that same debate exists within cancel culture, honestly. Do we allow people to change? Do we allow people to show that they've changed, to speak on the fact that they've changed, to apologize? Or do we just say, you fucked up for good, sorry, we're moving on, keep it moving? I don't know. I think that depends on the severity of the issue and the ways in which the public figure is showing that they have changed. That's another gray area that I think turns a lot of people off cancel culture, and I feel like that is something that we all need to kind of decide when it comes to this shit. Let's use Kat Von D as an example because I brought her up. Are we happy that she's just not speaking at all? Because that turned out to be her response towards everything. It wasn't so much hey, I hear what you're saying about the vaccinating my kids thing. I'm going to look into vaccines, and I think what I said was a little ignorant, and I do want to proceed with vaccinating my child. Her response instead was to be I learned my lesson. I'm just not going to talk about my kid at all anymore. Who wins in that situation? Was that the way that it should have gone down? I don't know. Something to think about. This is a loaded issue. I would appreciate if the comment section could be civil. I say that I've never really had a true issue. I get one-off comments every now and then of people just totally missing my fucking point, which happen, that's fine. Whatever, you do you. I think being civil with each other would do a lot more good in terms of this whole issue, but what do I know? And ultimately, don't look to me to tell you who to cancel. That's also the point of this video. If you have information about something and it bothers you that badly and you don't want to support this person anymore and you want to provide information so that other people can maybe come to that decision, do that, but don't scream at the person who maybe hasn't gotten there yet. You know what I mean? And I can only do what works best for me, what's within my resources, what I think matters in my life. And if I focus on one issue, it doesn't mean that I don't care about another issue. It's just where I can spend my energy at this time. But in that same breath, I'm somebody with a small platform. People with platforms maybe should be speaking on these issues. I don't know. It's gray area. I look very gray today. Giving you some food for thought. I would love to talk about this issue some more. This was a very basic surface level conversation on this issue, if I could be honest. So if you want me to continue this and make it a series, maybe let me know. If you like this video, if you like the Lacey kind of rant videos, and if you like me, please hit like and subscribe. You can also follow me on my Instagram, which is also Spookless and Fat Hips, and my Twitter at SpookyLacey to see what I'm up to when I'm not on YouTube. Chat with me in the comments down below. Listen to the Half Cousins podcast if you don't already, because I have these kinds of conversations all the time on the podcast. All that information is linked down below. But other than that, that is all I have to say. I have to actually do the podcast right this second. What time is, oh my god, I got 15 minutes. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.